Do you trust the police?
Nah, I don't trust them at all.
And do you feel that your peers, that other people who are in youth, do you feel like they trust the police?
Nah.
And why is that?
Cause like all the situations that's coming out now, like they shooting people for no reason, they choking people to death for no reason, and we might think it might happen to us too.
Where I come from, if I see the police and they try something, I'm running. And if I get caught and they ask me why, I'm gonna tell them, because I do not want to be the next Mike Brown or Trayvon Martin for nothing. I didn't have nothing to do with.
Ferguson confirms they shot and killed a suspect. According to Mike Brown's mother, that suspect is her 18-year-old son. She said he was shot on Canfield Drive and left laying in the street for hours. Pictures all over social media. Brown is a 2014 graduate of Normandy High School and expected to start college in the fall. People are angry with police because they aren't releasing details of this case, and the chief says he hates to see this going on in his city.
Recently, the names Mike Brown, Eric Gardner, Freddie Gray, Walter Scott, and Tamir Rice have dominated the media. Eric Gardner was killed by police after they suspected him of trying to earn money selling cigarettes on a New York sidewalk.
Please just leave me alone. I told you the last time. Please just leave me alone. Please, don't touch me. Don't touch me. Hold on. No, listen, don't touch me, please. Do not touch me.
Police will find any little thing to make an arrest. No matter who you are, whatever, they will find anything to make an arrest.
If you're a person of color, you're 2 times as likely, and if you're a Latino, you're 3 times as likely to get searched when you get stopped. You are more likely to face a militarized police department. You are more likely to face police presence and arrest in schools. You are more likely to face that in your communities. And so then you have more people of color in the criminal justice system, in the juvenile delinquent system, and eventually in the prisons. And then you have more people of color who, because of their convictions for felonies, can't vote, can't be in housing, can't get a job.
Nowadays, cops see most people as criminals, and I mean, if it wasn't for crimes, there wouldn't be cops, so I guess they're just doing their job, right?
To better understand this issue, we spoke to Anthony Ponvier, a Bridgeport attorney who has handled cases both representing victims of police as well as cases defending police officers.
So put yourself in the shoes of an average police officer. You get up in the morning, let's say you're a man, you kiss your wife goodbye, you kiss your children goodbye, and you go off to a job where at any given moment you could be killed. And your job is to put yourself into a situation that is inevitably very dangerous, very confusing, very much out of your control. And that could happen at any moment on any day of the week for the entire time that you do that job, which for most police officers is at least 20 years.
You know, I always wanted to be a police officer. And as fate had it, when I was really looking into it, Stamford was given a test. And actually being from Stamford, this is the only place I really wanted to be a police officer because I knew the people, I knew the community, and this was the best way that I'd be able to give back and help my community.
I'd like to say this. I think, not saying that the reputation was always worse or bad, but I think with social media, you see more of, whether it be something that happens in Ferguson or New York, whereas years ago, when I came on the job, we didn't have camera phones. So no one was filming. Now everybody has a camera phone. So now what you see is, you'll see there were probably incidents that occurred like this many years ago. I know for a fact there were incidents that occurred like this through the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. You just didn't see it. Social media now everybody sees it, the world sees it. So it's really bringing a light on issues that there was no light on. As a police officer, you want everything to be transparent. So you shouldn't worry about cameras or someone videotaping you. If you're doing the right thing, it's not an issue.
In April 2015, the state of Connecticut finished a study of all traffic stops. The purpose was to find out whether there is racial profiling occurring.
The work that we've done, the report, which I have here, is based on the most comprehensive collection of data about traffic stops than I think any other state in the country. We now know that people of color in Connecticut across the board on traffic stops are searched more often by police than white people.
So how did the police officers we spoke to feel about the results of this study?
My actions don't change based on color. Why me? I grew up in Freeport, Long Island. I'm born and raised in an African neighborhood. It's never. I don't look at anybody different. I don't get on guard. I don't get tough. I don't make preconceived notions when you're dealing with people. It is what it is. We're all the same. It's just shades different.
Well, I'm from Stamford, born and raised in Stamford. As you pointed out, I'm African American. But growing up, the challenges that you have as a young African American male, I've had those same experiences and challenges. So a lot of what I say comes from experience. So it doesn't come from training, it doesn't come from a book or anything like that. It comes from my own experiences. And as I say, it's a maturity thing. As you get older, you come to learn that there's certain situations in society you're not going to be able to handle. You can't always worry about how someone else reacts to you because you're a person of color. You can't change that person, but guess what you can do? You can control your own actions. And by that, you can hopefully make things better.
Well, the studies that I've looked at on implicit bias, that's the term, is used when anyone, including law enforcement, assume criminality on the basis of ethnicity or race. I don't think the law enforcement community has been willing to examine its implicit bias. And if it wants to prevent another killing of somebody who is innocent, just because that person is a person of color, I think they need to start looking at the data and examining the implicit bias.
During the interview, we surprised the officers with recorded messages from other Stamford Academy students.
Let's imagine you are addressing a police officer. Look straight at the camera and talk to him. What do you want to say?
I can't say what I really want to say, but I feel like you guys just respect everybody. Don't abuse the power of your badges, because if you do, then it's gonna turn out to a bad situation. Another person is gonna get taken off the earth.
You gotta prove to us that some of y'all good, and we gonna prove to you that some of us aren't bad at all. It's just because somebody does one thing bad, doesn't mean that all of us gonna do the same thing, because we're not all the same.
I mean, I feel like as a cop, you should be more inspiring to the youth than mean or, like, just aggressive. It's not the way to go. It's just, as for the most part with youth, you should just try to inspire them to do bigger and better things with themselves instead of, whatever the case may be.
My reaction is, number one, first off, it's very powerful, the message that they conveyed. I wish more officers can see and hear those messages, because it is a powerful message. I think they were right on point with everything they said, on how a police officer should react and act with the community.
Do you have any feedback for what you just watched?
Yeah, the feedback I'd like to say is to let everybody know I heard what they said, and I'll take it to heart, and I'll listen to what they had to say, and I'll make sure the people who work for me and myself will do better.
In March 2015, a forum was held in Stamford to address the issue of mistrust between citizens and police officers in our community.
Do we want to have a better Stamford? Do we want to have a strong community where we are building trust? Well, we have to trust each other's motives with clarity and understanding, but we have to have that what I call uncomfortable conversation time.
Because we deal with this on a daily basis, and I think, to your point, the distrust. If members of the community don't trust why I'm asking the question, or they've had poor experiences with the police on other ones, it could go south in a hurry.
An unbelievable night for us, because we answered a lot of questions. I learned a lot from that night, and I've been a cop for 20 years. To see some of their thinking was like, I couldn't believe some of it, so I learned a lot that night. And it was, again, that was another good night that I left there saying, it is a step in the right direction.
All participants in his documentary had ideas for ways to build trust and improve relations in our community.
I think that law enforcement deserves more respect than they get, and they deserve more understanding than they get. But I also think the flip side of that is, if we're going to put people in that situation, we got to make sure they're okay and that they can do the job and that they're psychologically and emotionally prepared to do it, that they have the training to do it, and that their state of mind is monitored at all times.
I was taught self-improvement is the basis of community development. You have to work on yourself. You got to pass it on. You got to love one another. Community, we have no more communities. They're gone.
You know, one of the biggest things in this job is you have to have patience. If you don't have patience, things can get out of hand. So you have to be patient with people in certain situations, in most situations. And a lot of times, most people just want to be heard.
I think it's just a lack of knowing each other or getting to know each other. But however, I think it's an easy hurdle we could overcome by doing things like this, going into schools, community events, getting people to know who the cop is, who the students are, the kids are, and we could build our trust, because trust isn't just given.
It doesn't even feel like I'm sitting next to a police officer.
And those are the barriers we want to break down. We're just like everybody else, just, you know, we have a job to do.
Any interaction with the police, what you want to do is you want to be respectful, and you know, if they're asking you to do something, comply. If there is an issue, or if you have a complaint with the police officer, usually on the scene at that time is not the time to, you know, grieve that complaint. There are avenues where you can come into headquarters and, you know, file formal complaints and handle it that way. But usually on the street, what you want to do is you want to comply with the officer, and you want everything to go smoothly, because we don't want anything to happen where a situation escalates into a tragic situation like we've seen across the country.
You don't want to be confronting police in that interaction, in that traffic stop, in that stop and frisk at a point where you could be jeopardizing your own safety. The time to enforce those rights is after the fact.
To bring about change, both sides need to listen, understand, and see the world from each other's perspectives.
I know Mr. Baker, I know Mike Duggan, you guys should walk around. I know that they're your leaders, but you students should take a lot of pride in what you do. You make that school, every one of you, and everyone since, because you guys should wear those green shirts with pride, because I'm proud of you.
My message to you is, just like the young man said last, that he wants to show that you know, we want to prove that all police officers are bad, just like young people want to prove that all of them are bad. And I think it takes a lot more communicating back and forth and us understanding and hearing messages like that to make things better.